Welcome to another edition of the Playbook. I'm Free Gola, alongside my resident analyst, Louis T. The NFL playoffs are just about underway. We take a look at each of the 4 wildcard matchups, and we also take a look at the top 2 seeded teams in each respective conference. But of course, first, we gladly talk about the Redskins. Louis T, no one expected the Redskins to be where they are right now, with a chance to open up the first round at home against a team that many expected to come out of the NFC, the Green Bay Packers. The Redskins have won 4 straight games coming into the playoffs, 3 of which on the road. How do you think they match up against Aaron Rodgers and this Packers team?
Before I even talk about the game, the fact that we're even having this discussion, it is mind-boggling that the Redskins have won 9 games. They have seemed to have found their franchise quarterback. They're playing outstanding football. They've scored over 30 points 5 times this season. Kirk Cousins has broken so many Redskin records. It is just amazing. It's been a roller coaster ride, but to answer your question, they have a legitimate shot, not only winning this game against the Packers, but really doing some serious damage in the NFC playoffs because their offense is so explosive and dynamic, and it's all spearheaded by Kirk Cousins. And I tell you what, right now, if they can find a way to continue to generate turnovers like they've done in this last quarter of the season, this is a dangerous team in the postseason. And
they're dangerous because they're playing with so much confidence. Like you said, Kirk Cousins is breaking records left and right. He is the first Redskins quarterback in Redskins history to throw for over 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns in a single season. How surprised are you with his development?
It's not that I'm surprised. It's the rate of his development. We talked earlier in the season about how we needed to give him time, and this was his first season as starter, and I've preached the 2 Ps all season long. Patience, and this goes not only for Kirk Cousins, but Jay Gruden as well. Patience and process. And you listen to Kirk Cousins talk all the time, and he talks about process and the process. And I thought this was going to be exactly that, a process, but it seemed like overnight, and really that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game and that comeback, that epic comeback, to me, was really the catalyst for what we've seen from Kirk Cousins over this remarkable stretch of football. We're talking about 10 games, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The Redskins offensively are lights out, and it's because of Kirk Cousins and his command of this offense, the ability to get the football out of his hands quickly, and he calls himself a distributor, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's distributing the football to his playmakers and allowing them to make plays for him.
And as he continues to develop, you see Jay Gruden having more trust in him. He's opening up the offense, giving Kirk Cousins an opportunity to really make plays down the field. They're still running the ball, more than maybe we would like them to run the ball, but it's so they can set up that play action, and it's worked really well for them. How well do you think it's going to work against this Green Bay defense?
When we listened to Kirk Cousins mic'd up versus the Buffalo Bills in Week 15, we learned a lot about the dynamic between he and offensive coordinator Sean McVay, and you heard Sean McVay say, "I'm learning." And you see, he said, look, earlier in the season, we didn't want to put a lot on me, but now that's our best shot. And we see that that's our best shot to win. With what he's done over the last month, 2 months of the season, especially that Eagles game where he threw it 46 times. Hasn't thrown an interception in who knows how long. He did the same thing against the Cowboys. Quick work, 15 passing attempts, quick short passes out of his hand. He's throwing a deep ball well. He's seeing the field well. There are so many things that the Redskins can do off of that, and I think now they're more comfortable throwing the football on first down, so you're seeing less runs on first down, less 2nd and 7, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 11s. They're comfortable with him throwing the football to set up the run, which still gives them an opportunity to run the bootlegs and the things off of the running game, even though the pass is setting up the run and not vice versa.
And if you're Jay Gruden and you're in the locker room, how do you guard against this team feeling like they've exceeded expectations? Because they have in many ways.
They have, but that's the outside perception. This team in that locker room felt like they could do this all along. And I think as the season progressed and they started to believe in Kirk and the ability for him to be able to get it done, I mean, we've seen all these comeback from behind victories against the Eagles, against the Buccaneers. I think Jay Gruden has done a magnificent job of balancing the personalities in the locker room and allowing these guys to go out and police themselves. We've heard the word accountability with this football team the entire season, and you're seeing that manifest itself out on the field. And so I think Jay Gruden really doesn't have to get these guys motivated. They haven't accomplished anything. They won this division. They haven't won a postseason game. This is, for most of those guys in the locker room, their first time in the postseason. They're hungry. And so I think Jay Gruden understands that there are some veterans in that locker room. They're going to make sure that those guys realize that nothing's promised to them and that they got to take advantage of this opportunity because it may not come again.
It's a huge opportunity because, like I said, this Green Bay team, they started off the season 6-0, but over the last 10 games, they're only 6-4. That means this team has struggled offensively. Aaron Rodgers is looking pedestrian-like. 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in the last 6 games. They've had trouble really protecting him at the line of scrimmage. Is this an opportunity for this Redskins defense to really get after the quarterback?
It is, but it's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So you still have to pay homage because he's still one of the best in the league. And despite the breakdowns of the offensive line and the shuffling that they're doing up front, moving guards to tackles and guards that haven't played all season, inserting them into the lineup, despite the receivers not being able to separate, despite the running game not being as efficient as they would like it to, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still one of the most creative quarterbacks and productive outside of the pocket, extending the play. So there's still a lot of challenges. This is not a good Redskins defense. They have done a great job of creating turnovers, but they still give up a bunch of yards, and they still can give up points. So it is going to be the job of this offense for the Redskins to make sure they score points and put the pressure on the Packers offensively, like you said, who haven't been scoring a lot of points of late. Make them have to keep pace with the Redskins and not the other way around. If this is a low-scoring game, that does not bode well for the Redskins.
If there's one type of quarterback that the Redskins really struggle with, have all season long, it's quarterbacks that can extend the play and scramble outside of the pocket and make things happen. That is Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see if the Redskins can continue to exceed expectations and advance to the second round of the playoffs. All right, we move along to the remaining 3 wildcard matchups, kicking off with the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that is the hottest in the NFL, having won 10 consecutive games coming into the playoffs, and they take on the Houston Texans. And their defense is rolling. How do you like this matchup, Louis T?
It is amazing that a team that has won 10 consecutive games is not a division winner. That is just mind-boggling. They're on the road. This is actually a rematch of Week 1 when the Chiefs went to Houston and beat up on the Texans. This is a totally different Texans team now, though. They're playing with much more confidence. And how many quarterbacks have they went through this season? And they're still winning ball games. And it's because that defense has turned it up. And I thought the defining moment for the Texans this season was that win on Monday night versus an undefeated Bengals team. They've played so much better since then. And the Chiefs right now, they're running the football. Alex Smith is doing what he always does. He's not turning the football over. He's finding Macklin. He's finding Travis Kelce. They're playing at a relatively high level right now, and the 10 wins speaks for itself. If they can get their pass rushers back healthy, Tamba Hali and their other pass rusher, I think they could be one of the teams that we're talking about later on in the AFC playoffs.
And it has been both the offense and the defense that has propelled this Kansas City Chiefs team on that 10-game winning streak. Alex Smith started off the season slow, but finished off with 3,486 yards and 20 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. Do you think this Houston Texans defense can really get to him and force him to make mistakes?
The key is going to be making Alex Smith make mistakes. If they can't get to him, if J.J. Watt can't get loose, if they can't get consistent pressure on him and he's able to sit back and survey the field, and he's a guy that wants to get the football out of his hands quickly, but of late, he's actually been pushing the football down the field. If they can't get to him and rattle his cage a bit and force him into some mistakes, get off the field on third downs, which is something the Texans have been doing a great job of during their 4-game winning streak, then they're going to have problems. But I think they can do that. The question is, will they?
They've got to rely on that defense. Jadeveon Clowney coming into his own. J.J. Watt's showing dominance. So who do you got, the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think that because the Chiefs right now are playing such great football, and I still am not sold on the Texans quarterbacking situation. That's been my problem with that football team. Despite them winning that division, I'm still not sold on Brian Hoyer and his ability to lead this team in the postseason. I think the H&H sack factory, as I call them, in Houston and Holly will be back. D Ford is playing a lot better defensively. I love their rookie Marcus Peters at the cornerback position. I think defensively the Chiefs will be too much for the Texans to handle. I don't see Alfred Blue being able to run the football as well as he has over the last quarter of the season. And I think offensively the Chiefs will do enough, which is what they've done all season long. It isn't pretty, but it's gritty and it's enough for a W. I'm taking the Chiefs in this game.
Let's turn our attention to the nightcap game, the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Bengals have already set the NFL record for most consecutive first-round exits with 4. And tonight they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that just weeks ago came into their own backyard and beat them. So is this the game where the Bengals break that streak and change their luck?
Is Andy Dalton playing?
We don't know that much. He is still questionable at this point.
If there's no Andy Dalton, there's no win. You can go ahead and make that 5 consecutive first-round postseason exits for this Cincinnati Bengals team. And it's a shame. I've talked to so many Cincinnati Bengals fans, and they just simply want to win. And they felt like this was the year to get it done. They were playing at such a high level, and then Andy Dalton gets hurt against these aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers. And so now you look at this football team defensively, they're as good as anybody in the league. But offensively, they've struggled to finish up this season with A.J. McCarron. And it's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with this guy, because you look at him in the first 2 drives of the Denver game and you're like, this is awesome. But the rest of the game, he struggled. He struggled against San Francisco on the road. He struggled last week against Baltimore at home. I just don't like what I'm seeing from him in terms of being able to win in the playoffs against good football teams.
Okay, so they're at home right now playing against a very physical Pittsburgh team. Can they afford to maybe not put so much of the onus on A.J. McCarron and ask their running game to carry some of that load?
Their running game hasn't done that for them this season. It just hasn't been a season where they could rely on Jeremy Hill like it was last year, where he had a huge rookie season. I think they are more reliant on the quarterback this season, more so than ever. And the fact that now their signal caller has been out, I think that's become more apparent. Teams are daring them to throw the football. If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us with A.J. McCarron. And this is a Steelers team that we know can score with the best of them. Now, they haven't finished this season all that strong. And I'm guilty, just like most of the national media is, of crowning the Steelers and the Seahawks in the NFC as the most dangerous team, the team you don't want to play. But I don't like how the Steelers. It can be, but I don't like how they finished up the season. I thought they struggled against Cleveland in that final game, and if Johnny Manziel had played, I thought that they could have easily lost that football game. They lose to the Ravens, a team that has struggled with Ryan Mallett at quarterback. I mean, this is a game that is still here for the Cincinnati Bengals to take if they are willing to go out and make the plays to win this game. But I just don't see it happening with A.J. McCarron.
One of the best receiving corps in the NFL for the Steelers. How do you like how they match up against the Bengals secondary?
The Bengals secondary is good, but they're not great. And the thing about it is, and this, you can say this about any team, that secondary is that much better when they're getting consistent pressure up front. And Carlos Dunlap has done a good job of that. Geno Atkins has done a phenomenal job of doing that this season. And they're going to need them to do it again this Saturday if they're going to have any chance of winning this football game.
All right, moving along to our early Sunday game, the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Seattle Seahawks, a team that many believe is the most dangerous team in the NFL. They've won 6 of their last 7 games heading into the playoffs. They beat up on the Cardinals in Week 17, 36-6. Is this, in fact, the most dangerous team?
Free, if you remember on this very program when we did Sink or Swim, what did I tell you about the Seattle Seahawks?
You said they would make it.
I said they were world-class swimmers.
You did say that. That was the correct wording.
And these Seahawks have found a way to turn their season around. They were 4-5 after that loss on Sunday night to the Arizona Cardinals, and we started to doubt this team a bit. And since then, Russell Wilson has went out of this world. Insane. He is out of bounds right now, the way he's playing the quarterback position. And he's doing this without a running game for the most part because Marshawn Lynch has been banged up. Thomas Rawls, the rookie, got injured. And so he's been putting this team on his back along with Doug Baldwin. They're scoring points. When did the Seattle Seahawks become a team that was scoring 30 points routinely? This is a team that in their last 7 games have scored over 36 times. I mean, they're doing some of the things that is unconventional to this team. They're starting to get a rhythm defensively now, and they got rid of Kerry Williams. inserted Deshaun Shedd into that secondary, and now they're starting to get confidence on the defensive side of the football. Yes, this is a scary team. And as a 6th seed, I don't think there's one team in the NFC that wanted to play the Seattle Seahawks in the first round.
As a Redskins fan, I didn't want them to play the Seattle Seahawks. No, but you mentioned Russell Wilson, like you said, has been incredible lately. Only one pick in the last 7 games, and early on they were struggling. That offensive line was protecting Russell Wilson. At one point they were leading the league in sacks given up. So you see this offense coming together. The defense you could always rely on. Is this a team that you can envision coming out of the NFC?
Most definitely. And I think they got a good draw because I think they feel like they can handle Minnesota. And I know Minnesota Vikings fans and the players in that locker room feel like they have something different to say about that. But they feel good about going to Minnesota. They went there and beat them up 38-7 earlier in the season. They feel good about going to Minnesota. They feel good about potentially having to go to Carolina, a team they beat 4 out of 5 times.
And from a matchup standpoint, it really doesn't bode well for this Minnesota team because they rely so much on the run. And you know the Seattle team is stingy when it comes to the run defense. I can't imagine Teddy Bridgewater emerging as the guy who really leads this team on. And they're going to have to put the burden on him in order to beat the Seattle Seahawks.
And that was the problem in the first matchup, was the fact that they took away Adrian Peterson. And you could argue the Vikings themselves took Adrian Peterson out of the game. Only 10 carries for him in that ball game. They turned it over to Teddy Bridgewater and said, hey, go win us the game. He wasn't capable of doing that against that caliber of defense. So you look at the Minnesota Vikings and what they're going to have to do, I think, early in this game is establish a short passing game. If the run isn't there, have Teddy Bridgewater 3-step drop, ball out of his hands quickly, pick up 4 yards on a short pass, and try to keep themselves ahead of the sticks and give themselves a shot to maybe push the football down the field and open up some lanes for the running game, and not necessarily first down, second down, run, put yourself in 3rd and 9, and then ask Teddy Bridgewater to sling it on 3rd and 9.
And they've struggled all season long protecting Teddy Bridgewater in the pocket. So the short passing game is, in fact, what they're going to have to rely on if they have any shot in this game, and I don't think it's much of a shot. Even though they're in their own backyard, I've got the Seattle Seahawks winning this one.
And as do I, but I will say this much. This Vikings defense, they're getting healthy. They're playing better football. I think they're going to make some adjustments from the first time these two teams played. And I think they feel a lot better about this time around and this second time against the Seattle Seahawks than they did the first time.
And they have, in fact, been able to rely on that defense all season long, really getting after the quarterback and being creative with those defensive blitz packages. Do you expect they're going to try to put as much pressure as they can on Russell Wilson?
I don't think they are going to try to come after him. I think I like the game plan they had against the Packers in Week 17. A lot of it was just based off keeping Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. We know how dangerous he is outside the pocket. You could say the same exact thing about Russell Wilson and his ability to create outside the pocket when things break down. They did a good job of rushing forward, and they kept a spy on Aaron Rodgers for the majority of the night and had Brian Robinson spying him and chasing him sideline to sideline. I don't know if he's athletic enough to keep pace with Russell Wilson or not, but I like that game plan of rushing for, dropping a guy as a spy over the middle of the field and kind of keeping him contained in that pocket.
Yeah, it's a tough task just to keep Russell Wilson contained, but like I said, that's exactly what they're going to have to do. And do you envision this Seahawks team being a better team than the one we saw last season?
No. This Seattle Seahawks team, I think, can be a better version of themselves this season moving forward. But as far as them being better than the 2013 team that won the Super Bowl, the 2014 team that went to the Super Bowl, this team is not better. And Marshawn Lynch, we don't know his status. He's supposed to play this game, but we still don't know what he looks like on the football field after he takes some contact.
Certainly going to be an exciting weekend of football. We might be in for a couple of surprises. This is 4 Down Territory. We're talking about the top 2 teams in both the AFC and the NFC. Starting off with the AFC, Peyton Manning is back in the lineup for the Denver Broncos. And you caught it. You said he would be the guy that would lead this team to victory, and he sure did that in Week 17 against the Chargers. But with a healthy Manning back in the lineup, is this Broncos team the team to beat in the AFC?
You know, the one thing I like better than being right? Nothing. I love being right. And that wasn't the way I drew it up. I didn't think that because Brock Osweiler was struggling, they would bench him and Peyton would have to come in, ride in on the white horse and save the day. But I envisioned him being the guy in the postseason. I just think it's the right thing for them because he has experience, and they had so many turnovers in that Week 17 win over San Diego. And this AFC playoff picture is the most wide open I've ever seen because you've got a 1 seed that's been beaten by both wild card, 5 seed and 16 teams. And it's just insane that the Patriots backed into the postseason. The Broncos have turmoil within their quarterback position and situation. That defense is lights out. We've been talking about the defense all year, but you look at this offense and you're just like, I don't know about the offense. And so while I like Peyton Manning being in there, I think that's the right move for them. I still have questions because it's not like he came in and he was slinging the football all over the field. He was making great checks. He was making great checks, getting them out of bad plays into the right ones. There was one play where they had a blitz coming from the right side of the formation. So he checks the run to the left, and it pops all the way down to the 1 yard line. They end up getting in the end zone. Those are the type of things that he comes and brings to this football team. But as far as throwing the football, he still was missing down the field. He's healthier. You can see that. There's more pop and life in his arm. But I still have to see him go out and be consistent.
No doubt that the defense has been amazing all season long, finishing first in the league, allowing a league-low 283 yards per game. And Peyton Manning doesn't have to be the Peyton Manning that we're accustomed to, but how much does he have to do?
He needs to do his part. There were guys open on Sundays, guys open deep. I need him to hit that. Okay, on third downs, when you get an opportunity to convert, I need him to convert. I need Peyton Manning to just make the simple plays. And that's something that we're not accustomed to saying to him because we're used to him making the simple plays. But right now, with where this offense is, they have guys that are playmakers that can win one-on-one matchups. Demaryius Thomas, monster. Okay? They have guys that can get open and win. And so he just simply needs to hit them. Emmanuel Sanders, when he's open deep behind the secondary, he's got to hit him. And so if they can just do the small things, convert on third downs, keep drives alive. If it's not there, you see they're run blitzing and you're running the football, check into a short pass. I think they can make this thing happen.
Moving along to the New England Patriots, a team that has lost their last 2 games and 4 of their last 6. We're not used to seeing this from a Bill Belichick team. What's going on here?
Injuries. This team, it's starting to really take its toll on this football team. And the one thing we talk about with these pocket passers, the Bradys of the world, and we talked about Aaron Rodgers and these guys that can shred you from the pocket, they need to be protected. And that's any quarterback in the league. And we've seen this from Brady before where he struggled. And in Week 17, he took a vicious shot to his knee. And he said he's going to be fine, but I watched him at a press conference the next day, and he limped away from the podium. They're struggling because they don't have all their weapons. You know, Amendola's been in and out of the lineup. Edelman's been gone since, I don't know, Week 11. They need all hands on deck. This is a bye week that was of the utmost importance for them because when they come off of this bye, if they don't have all hands on deck and Brady is not being protected and he doesn't have guys that can win one-on-one matchups, they're going to struggle.
I tell you, that offensive line is very thin right now. We know in the playoffs, you've got to be the more physical team. Can they still win the battle at the line of scrimmage?
Defensively, they've done some things, but that's not their calling card. This is an offensive-driven football team. If they're going to beat teams, they're going to need to score 24-plus points. They've struggled to score, and that's why you're seeing them lose football games.
Is this team in trouble?
After this bye week, they need all hands on deck. If they can get some guys back, and I think Edelman was close to playing, and he's a huge – and it's funny how – you put a value on some of these guys and you really don't know what you've got until it's gone. They wanted to let Julian Edelman walk away in free agency. Do you see how they're struggling offensively without him in the lineup? They need him back because he wins and he wins fast. So that offensive line doesn't have to protect for 3 seconds. Brady can hit that back foot and get the football out of his hands because Edelman is winning right away. And if they can get him back, you have Gronk. I think they can fix this before it's too late, but they need all hands on deck.
All right, let's talk NFC. No pressure on the Panthers to go undefeated after ending the season 15-1, but there is pressure on Cam Newton to lead his team to a Super Bowl. Do you like their chances, Louis T?
I do. And it's funny, the Rodney Dangerfields of the NFL, they can't get no respect. And it's funny because after the loss, you would have thought this team was backing their way into the postseason. It was their first loss of the year. And let's address him correctly. MVP Cam Newton is the guy that can take them where they want to go. And it's all about matchups. And it's all about if they can avoid it. And as a number one seed, I don't want you to make it seem as if they can't beat Seattle. Because they're the number one seed for a reason. They beat this Seattle Seahawks team that everyone thought was going to make their third consecutive Super Bowl appearance. They've beaten them already. They've beaten just about everyone that has been put in front of them, as their record indicates. But if I'm a Panthers fan, I would love to avoid at all costs the Seattle Seahawks.
I think they're on a collision course.
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
absolutely right, because if they win in Wild Card Weekend, if the Seahawks take care of business, they're on a collision course with the Carolina Panthers. And not saying that they can't win that game, I'm still sketchy on that offense. A lot of people have been talking about the Panthers' defense.
So much is relying upon Cam Newton. Can he continue to play at that level?
Absolutely he can, but sometimes other guys around you have to make plays, okay? You can't have Philly fingers dropping the football. You can't have Ted Ginn Jr. being 3 yards behind the secondary and dropping the football. He's going to need other guys outside of Greg Olsen to step up. He's got a number of guys that can make some plays. Jonathan Stewart was banged up to finish up the season. He's going to be back and he's going to be healthy. I actually like Cameron Artis-Payne and what he's been doing at the running back position. I think he can be another weapon and an asset to that offense. But they're receivers. That's the position that has been my problem with this team from day one. I don't trust them. I still don't trust them. And come postseason time, if those guys don't raise the level of play, I think the Panthers could have an easy early exit in this postseason.
Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals, a team that has been playing well all season, possibly the most complete team in the league. But they did get trounced by the Seahawks in Arizona in Week 17.
Yeah.
Is that an indication of what we might see from this team in the playoffs?
I think that was an aberration. I don't think that's something that Cardinals fans should be worried too much about. I mean, now again, the team that they were playing had a lot to say about that. And again, styles make fights. And I think this Arizona Cardinals team at home, one of the most dangerous teams in the league. And like you said, they're very balanced. They can get you defensively. They can get you offensively. I think that game was more of a byproduct of them kind of letting their guard down temporarily because they understood what was at stake. And if Carolina took care of business, they weren't going to get that number one seed. And I'm pretty sure they always say, we don't want the score on the Jumbotron, and we don't want to know. Someone got in Bruce Arians' ear and said, hey, Carolina's taking care of business over there. Go ahead and get your guys out here. Now, that's not to say that Seattle didn't jump on those guys early, because they did. And they jumped on them early, and they jumped on them often. But this is a Arizona Cardinals team that, when clicking on all cylinders, I think is the best team in all of the National Football League. And so if they can continue to do the things they've done all season long offensively, and I think they've got the best vertical passing game of any team in the league, if they can continue to do what they've done offensively, and now they're starting to get contributions from the running game with David Johnson, their rookie, defensively, they're going to miss Tyrann Mathieu. They're going to miss the Honey Badger. That's a huge loss for them in that secondary. But if they continue to score points the way that they've been scoring, this is going to be a tough team to deal with in the NFC.
And they may have the easiest road to the NFC Conference Championship because they wouldn't have to play the Seattle Seahawks until that game.
Style makes fights.
Yeah, we shall see how these teams perform coming out of the bye week. That wraps up this episode of The Playbook. Should be an awesome week of playoff football and wildcard weekend. For Louis T, I'm Frigola. See you guys next time.